Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Four Kicks and Gigabytes podcast. As always, I don't know what week of quarantine it is because I don't keep track of those things. I'm your host Hawkeye38, and as promised, it took a little bit of work, but doing today's episode on Uncharted because, well, I never played Uncharted. As this usually goes, like I said, I'm trying to do these about games I haven't really experienced for whatever reason. And for this one, I think it was mainly just I had a 360, so I didn't really get to play them when they're on the PS3. And I have a PS4 now, and I own all of them now. I still haven't got a chance to actually play them. So to kind of help maybe nudge me to actually start playing them, I have our actually newest team member, Chris here. Chris,
how's it going?
Good. How are you, man?
Pretty good.
Who claims it's his favorite series?
It is very much my favorite series.
I think we talked a little bit before though about I was surprised that you didn't say Last of Us, but I think it's because I think I specified series that you were like, well, you said series, so I guess.
Well, I guess we can now consider The Last of Us a series.
That's true, because as of this recording, Last of Us 2 is out. But so, like all these are gonna start. What kind of brought you in on it? Because I'm assuming you had a PS3 at this point, right?
Yes.
So what brought you? Was it a commercial? Was it someone's like, hey, check this out? Was it just like featured on some website or something?
Well, I was one of the poor individuals who had a PS3 in the year 2008. So this is a little bit after Halo 3 came out, and all my buddies ragging on me about PlayStation not having any games.
If we knew each other back then, I would have done it too.
Yeah, right. And I just remember, trying to find a good PS3 game. And I just picked up the first Uncharted, Drake's Fortune, and I just looked at the cover and I thought, this is kind of an interesting game. I'll try it. I really wasn't that big into gaming back then, but I just figured I would try this game out.
So what about it like stuck? Like, I mean, because any game can like look cool, and it's like, hey, I want to try it out. Like, what you're like, hey, like all of a sudden you're like, I'm 60 hours in or however long, and it's like, what is it that just felt, like what part about the gameplay loop of it?
Well, yeah, it just looked like Tomb Raider with just it was like Dude Raider, and that's what like people coined it back then. They'd be like, oh, check out this Dude Raider game, and it looked like a modern take on like an action adventure game, like an Indiana Jones type movie game, and I love Indiana Jones, and kind of just sparked my interest.
So you mentioned like with those like movies and stuff, like would you say that because I think we've talked a little bit before about this, but like would you say that like the storytelling of it, like if we're picking like gameplay, storytelling, like on the balance here, what's the kind of thing holding on to you more? Because I feel like a lot of people with any detractors of Uncharted are always like, oh, like it's like watching a movie. Don't get me wrong, it's a really pretty movie, but gameplay wise, there's something to be desired. Do you feel the same way, or do you think the story is just enough to kind of like gloss over that and it doesn't affect you as much?
I think that the story is definitely the strong suit, and more importantly, I think the characters of the video game characters are an important part. You play as that person, and it's supposed to, you're supposed to act out that person's intentions and their goals and stuff. And so having a really good story, having a likable main character, and more importantly, likable side characters to interact with your main character just made it gave it a little bit more. It held up the gameplay because you want to know what's going to happen next in the story, and you need to play that
the
game
to get to that part.
It's not just. It is a pretty movie, and you're watching it, but it's less like a Heavy Rain or like a Detroit Become Human, where you're just like kind of interacting with it.
It's just more act. I mean, is the gameplay itself actually like fun? Like I said, I have never like touched it at all. Like I said, I own all four of them just because of like PlayStation Plus and stuff like that. But I've never like actually like most of the time I've ever seen footage for it, it's always been like cutscenes and stuff. So I have no idea what the actual like gameplay of it's like, if it's enough, like if it's even fun in the first place. You know what I mean?
So it consists of 3 different types of gameplay mechanics. There's platforming, puzzles, and shooting. And hardcore gamers would probably like be on my back about this, but they're a little bit more on the casual side. The puzzles, they're not as intense as like the like the rebooted Tomb Raider's Tombs. Um, but like I said, the story is so good and the characters are so enjoyable. You still progress through it.
Okay.
Me personally, I just went through the shooting. The shooting in the first one is kind of iffy, but as the games improve, the shooting mechanics get a little bit better.
Okay. I mean, that's like with anything. It's especially like so like Naughty Dog makes them, and especially I can understand with the first one. They're coming off like the Jack series,
right?
So it's like they're
a mature take
yeah,
video game than
which
what they previously did.
Which even still, like like Jack was still like trying to work through its like shooting mechanics. They were trying to figure it out in the second one, and I arguably figured out in the third one. It depends on how you're feeling that day. But so speaking of sequels and stuff, so have you played all 4 of them?
Yes.
Have you played any of the side ones too? Like
The Lost Legacy, yes.
Okay. What about the card game on Vita?
I did not know that existed.
It's one of the few. It's actually one of the. I am a big Vita supporter, and I've like I said, never played an Uncharted game, but I'm like, hey, you know what? There's like a card game, and I love card games, so maybe I'll play that on my Vita.
That's kind of interesting.
But yeah, so okay, do you have a favorite out of the main ones then?
Gosh, I mean, just like Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back is the best one.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone always says Uncharted 2. But lately I've been leaning more towards Uncharted 4.
Okay.
As my personal favorite. Just because they were able to take elements from The Last of Us, and also it's on the PS4, so it looks gorgeous.
Of course.
And it's a good closure to the series and to the character. I think it wraps everything up pretty nicely.
So with that said, though, is the story kind of linked through each single one? Can you play just one without having to play the others? Like, even if there's an overarching story, is it possible to kind of still enjoy? Let's say, like, if I just want to play 3 or whatever, or is it kind of like really necessitate playing all of them?
So the stories, again, kind of like Indiana Jones, you can watch each, or you can play. Sorry.
Yeah.
You can play each standalone, but you won't catch the little nuances on how the characters, the kind of banter that goes back and forth, and some sort of references that come back towards previous games. So, to answer your question, you can play them separately.
So yes and no.
But they're more enjoyable as a
whole,
total
as
experience.
as a complete piece. Sorry, this is the second I blanked on one of these. You should have seen me in the last episode. No, okay. So, tying in kind of gameplay and story, one of the big things I've thought about with this series is, because like my thing is like whenever I see people talking about it, it's a lot. It's not to discredit anything you're saying. I feel like it's still a lot of kind of like presentation about it. It's like it's a good story being told. Like I said, I haven't heard too much on the gameplay mechanics, but I've kind of been on this thing where, do you think part of the reason that maybe it's either your favorite or that it's so good is because of kind of its pedigree? Like, do you think that, like, because it's, graphically gorgeous, because it has smooth and tight controls, is what makes it good, and then then like on top of that, it becomes kind of like more than the sum of its parts, but also just be like, even if you break those parts down, like all of them are good. Because like I've realized with some of the, like like my favorite games, I'll recognize that they have major faults. I'll recognize that I'm like, hey, if you tried to show me this game today, I don't think I like it as much as I do. It hit at a certain time, and then they've like Pokemon's my favorite franchise, right? And arguably Red and Blue, not Red versus Blue. Hey, where's your teeth? Red and Blue like have major flaws. The combat's broken. There's bugs and glitches all over the place. But it hit at a time in my life that I saw through all those. There was so much going on that like right. It kind of it lets you overlook that. But I think with something like Uncharted, it's very much like a hey no, like all the stuff that goes into it's good. So like no wonder it's a good series. Do you feel that, or do you think there's something more there? Do you feel like there's something innately like charming about it that struck a chord with you?
Gosh, that was kind of Big question. I think because it's a lighthearted game, it was easy for me at the time to just pick it up and just play it and kind of like gauge my own opinion on it. Looking back on all of them, I think it just works as a casual game, a casual adventure game. Um, like you don't have to invest too much grind into it. Um, the games are only like 7, 8 hours max
Really?
length. Yeah, the story. Yeah.
Oh,
If
you
you want to
have.
go like treasure hunting, or you want to try to find the secrets and like the hidden like trophies and stuff, that'll probably take you a little bit more time. But they're relatively short games.
So I mean, like average, how long are we talking?
I
Like,
mean, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure they're like 7 or 8 hours long.
I mean, like I mean, including all the other stuff. Like if like gameplay plus
They're
like.
like 11 or 12 hours, maybe.
Really?
Yeah, depending on how hard it is for you to find
Okay.
the extra stuff.
Okay. So, well, okay. With that said, then like, would you like I said, I read it. Would you actually recommend it to me, or is it a very like I mentioned the pedigree, but like, would you still consider it just like it's good enough that like everyone should just try it? Because I recognize that like there's just some stuff that's like the first episode we did Metal Gear Solid, and I recognize that like while that's a very important series of games,
Yeah.
they are definitely not for everyone because for one reason or one element of them or another. But do you think that like it's worth anybody's time to sit down with
I
Uncharted?
definitely think, unlike Metal Gear Solid, for everyone, it's pretty easy. Like you could probably give it to you could probably give it to your dad.
Yeah,
I know Doug plays video games, so he probably has played the Uncharted games.
he has not
But-
because he only has Xbox.
Okay. All right. Well, point I'm making is you can probably give it to most anybody,
Mhm.
and they can pick it up, learn the controls, play the game, understand the story. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth everyone's time. If you don't, if you're more hardcore and you're more interested in more intense gameplay mechanics or a more out of this world kind of like
Story.
experience, because these are like stories that like straight ripped out of Indiana Jones.
Okay, I was gonna say, speaking of those kind of comparisons, I mean, like we mentioned Tomb Raider earlier. Would you would you straight up actually like recommend this for people who like Tomb Raider, or would you feel like that it's sort of, for lack of a better term, kind of bastardizing that experience? Because Tomb Raider has its own kind of like nuances and like kind of touches that add to its like specific difficulty.
Yeah.
So like would someone that's like, hey, like I've played nothing but Tomb Raiders, would they look at this and be like, no, that's too casual for me, or they'd be, oh, this is a fun take on this genre?
I think gameplay wise, there would be something to be desired if you went from the Tomb Raider games, even the reboots, the recent reboots, to the Uncharted. I think there would be definitely some gameplay elements that you would be missing, like crafting, the tombs. So again, it all comes back to are you enjoying the story? Do you like the characters? And the difficult part about the Uncharted games is the first one was Naughty Dog trying to get on their feet and try to really like tackle a semi-serious video game.
Grounded in
So-
reality and everything.
It doesn't help that some of the mechanics, like the platforming and the shooting, are kind of clunky. The story is pretty simple. All the stories are pretty simple, but it doesn't really crank. When Naughty Dog got to 2, that the reason why everyone considers that was the best one is because they corrected all the mistakes from the first one. They cranked the story up to 11, and they brought in more characters. So if I were to give you Uncharted, I think if you started with 1, you might give up and not
Play the rest?
Play the rest.
But would you say that like how much of there is? Because I always feel like there's a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously, like there's so many mechanics in games now that like these tutorials are taking forever now, like longer and longer. So would you say that like if I jumped into 1 or if I jumped into 2, like I'd have more fun, like instant gratification with 2 than over 1, or like
Definitely.
yeah.
You'd be missing at where they started. Like I
Yeah.
think that
But can I just like wiki that?
you can, yeah. I definitely think you could start with 2, and you would be hopefully blown away. I would hope, because the story and characters are just so good.
Speaking
And
of,
I know that that's like kind of cheap to say for a video game, but I value characters and story in my video games more than the mechanics, which probably makes me a casual gamer.
I don't think it does. I think like that go with you. Like, because here's the thing, like with when it comes to characters and stuff like that, it really, it's like you gotta find your motivation for a lot of stuff. Like, I played through Persona 4, right? And trying to save someone at the end that I've had hours and hours of time with. It's like I think it's not really picking gameplay over characters. I think it's how much do they kind of lend themselves to each other. Like do I care enough about them to do the game, or even vice versa. Like the like I care, yeah, or I'm trying to think how that would work the reverse way. It's like I play the game because I want, or yeah, it's like I play the game more because I want to see more of these characters. I want to learn more about them. So I don't think it deters from being a gamer in any sense. But with that said, though, would you consider Nathan Drake a likable character? Like, I have
Definitely.
no idea.
He is up there with. I'll probably get hate for this, Master Chief.
Yeah.
He's up there. He's up there with the iconic video game characters. There's a reason why. I think it was during PS3, later stages of PS3, maybe PS4. I could be wrong, but they had they would have those live action commercials.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were advertising PlayStation.
Yeah.
And they had a collection of PlayStation characters, and he's like up there with the iconic PlayStation characters.
Because I was wondering about that with.
He's a likable guy. And,
yeah.
and
is he too vanilla? Because I mean, not that everyone has like some sort of like tragic backstory or anything like that, but like I think one of the things that always was fun about, let's say, like Indiana Jones was his weird amount, at least for me, was there's always like kind of weird amount of like, no, it belongs in a museum. This is all for like anthropological sources and stuff like that.
He's kind of like the opposite of that, where he
is after Fortune and Glory. And I guess that's unexpected. So it's like if Han Solo was Indiana Jones,
he's
like
very much. It's kind of funny that we're getting on talks of movies on a video game talk.
But I mean, this is one of the most
cinematic ones. That's where I'm coming from. Like, I come from enjoying movies, and this was like the gap between watching a movie and playing out my movie fantasies. I
mean, and I think that's the thing where I think we always have a little bit, I don't want to say disconnect or even necessarily disagreement, but like as much as like it's weird because I always think there should be, like, or if the game calls for it, I shouldn't say there should always be, but like I think that stories in games is really important because what makes it more than just kind of like sitting there pushing buttons. It adds the motivation to it.
Gives you the purpose, gives you the want to continue it.
But it's weird because I like to think of myself as both like for lack of a better term, like an artistic person, but like I am also very like a mathematical person. There's a reason I play RPGs because I do it. Like, I like the numbers. I like seeing numbers go up. I like seeing stats change. I like seeing the way that one of the things, like, bigger things about video games for me is actually just the technology behind it, where you're like, you have stuff like frame canceling, and you can just, or like action canceling, and all of a sudden you can, once again, lack of a better term, like break a game gameplay wise because you're doing something that maybe like the developer didn't intend. But I think when you focus on the story, I have trouble focusing on the story because I'm like, yeah, but I want to do the things. So that's why I'm like curious about like, would I actually enjoy this? But I guess if they're short, how much time would you, like? Okay, if you say like 7 or 8 hours, is it like how
you could binge one of these games in a day?
How's like the pacing of it though? Is it because I remember when I talked to Roger about like Metal Gear, he's like, yeah, no, like you do all this intense stuff, and he's like, I'm like, I don't mind the hour-long cutscenes because you did something super intense beforehand. Is it dispersed like pretty?
It is not
fluidly?
Like it's dispersed fluidly. The cutscenes are not at all like Hideo Kojima's cutscenes, which are notoriously long.
Yeah.
The stories, you're gonna find which one you like the best. I would say the story of number 3 kind of bogs down towards the middle of it, but like I said, you could binge one of these games aside from the fourth one, because the fourth one's a bit longer, whereas it incorporate, like I said, it incorporates some of the elements of The Last of Us. It also has more threads to tie up with the story. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of the fourth one, we talked about this a lot with, like, since we're doing series, and obviously it's named, like, A Thief's End. Is it actually like a fitting conclusion, or is it even actually a conclusion?
Without to spoil anything, it wraps up Nathan Drake's character well.
Okay, but what about, like, is there more to the
Could
overall
they have
plot?
a spin-off series with other characters in it? That's a potential. I mean, they did it. They tried it with the Lost Legacy, and that's like not a DLC, but it kind of is a DLC.
It's a standalone thing.
Yeah, it's even shorter than the regular games, but it shows that Naughty Dog's able to craft characters that are so likable that, I mean, although The Lost Legacy is not as popular as the main series, you can branch off and make your own stories with each character. That's how likable they are.
Like, but would you say that you're content with the end, though? I mean, I know you said it was a good way to wrap up his character, but do you feel it's a good... Like, if they never made another one, would you be like, okay, that's...
Oh, I'd be sad just because you want to see more stories.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you can't... With where Uncharted 4 went, the only way they would be able to make more stories with Nathan Drake is to make prequels, because...
I gotcha.
He's kind of old now.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, well, the thing is, too, is, like, now that, like, Last of Us... actually, did you beat Last of Us 2 yet, or no?
Not yet.
Okay. I have no idea how it ends. I don't even know if I'm play it. I probably should, maybe, because, all these stuff talks about...
Some people on the internet will tell you not to play it.
I was going to say, some people on the internet are
very controversial.
Very upset.
We could probably do a podcast
we probably
on that.
Could. But, yeah, it's one of those things where it's, like, it's always, like, do you feel any sort of kind of, not resentment, but just kind of like a longing that, like, hey, like, you guys have this, brand new franchise, and it's, like, since you don't know the end of it yet, but, like, for instance, like, kind of an example is that, like, I love the Advanced War games, on, like, the GBA and DS and stuff, and the thing is, though, the company that made them, Intelligent Systems, they also make Fire Emblem, except then Fire Emblem took off, and they've kind of never really had any same love for their series that kind of started bringing them some sort of income. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, to me, it's like, as much as I still love Fire Emblem, I'm still kind of like, you guys have enough money? Can you work also on another Advance Wars game? Like, we'd buy it, So do you feel any of that same thing where it's like, hey, like, you got this new shiny new
Uncharted?
Like we got the shiny new Last of Us Part 2. Nathan Drake's done. He says story's done. This whole world's done. Do you feel any sort of resentment, or like kind of longing for that?
No. I think that if Naughty Dog wants to keep innovating, which I personally think they do, they'll shelve their franchises and come up with some new IPs, because that's... I mean, I know Uncharted, the first one, when it came out, it was kind of a rip-off of the Tomb Raider games, but it was Naughty Dog's new IP, and if they had just continued making Ratchet and Clank games...
no, Insomniac made Ratchet and Clank.
Oh.
Jack.
You're right, Jack and Dexter. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Then they...
By the way, Insomniac is making a new Ratchet and Clank game for the PS5, and it looks great.
But they wouldn't make that new IP, and I said before, I think that it wraps up the Uncharted story well. You don't want to get people sick of it, like I think Halo has kind of done.
I mean, there's a lot of games.
Making something new is always good, especially in storytelling. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and with the Uncharted games, you can make any story, and it would kind of be similar to the one you just made. There's only so many adventures somebody can go on.
Well, actually, kind of building off that, would you say that, like, because I've had this kind of stuck in my head for a couple minutes now, like if you were, like, on an island, right, and, like, it was, like, do you feel like you get sick of like, you just only got stuck with the Uncharted games? Like, obviously, I think anyone gets sick of anything for a certain amount of time, but, like, because it's the same story that plays out, do you think, like, I'm assuming there's kind of very little like replayability in them, aside from just experiencing it because for the sake of experiencing it. Do you think that kind of holds it back in any way, or is it just because it's?
I definitely think it probably holds it back a little bit. Being a movie lover, I have certain movies that I watch annually.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Independence Day, I'm gonna watch the Independence Day movies.
Yeah.
So I always have a time I'll go back to these games and I'll play them. But do I get anything new from it? No. But it's like a
it's nice to see an
like
old
a
friend.
comfort food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, because like my thing's like I guess it's a little bit different since they're shorter. Because I mean the nice thing about like when you play like other games that are a little bit longer, usually, especially like I said, big RPG fan. Usually there's some way to play it differently. You know, like
this is not
like Pokemon. You're like, hey, I'm gonna go a totally different team this time. You know, or I'm gonna do it this way, or I'm gonna stat build whatever way with this.
They're very linear and very short when it comes to video games. So,
but I mean,
and if you love them, then that makes it easy to come back to and just like experience. But if you don't like it the first time around, odds are you're probably not gonna like it the second time around.
That's fair. I feel then again, I don't know, like I don't know many games that really have, if you didn't like it the first time around, regardless of like replayability. Like I mean, there's some stuff that I'm like, hey, like I played that once and I'm good, but I don't think there's anything that I'm like, oh man, like I hated that. Like maybe I missed something. Let me try it again. Because usually it's like, I feel like most people, it's like usually it's like you try it, you're like, no, like it didn't click with me.
Yeah.
Like
and like you said with the RPGs, you can always go back and play it in a different style, and you might get something new out of that.
Great. So, what like kind of closing off here? What would you look forward for them to kind of do next? Do you want to Last of Us Part 3? I know this is mainly Uncharted, but we kind of dipped into Naughty Dog anyway. Do you want to see them return? I can't. Did you play the Jack games?
I did not.
Oh man, they're so good. I don't think we need a new one of those. Like maybe not like remaster. They have like the collection or whatever. But oh yeah, like would you want an Uncharted 5? Would you want like Last of Us Part 3? Would you want?
I think I would want something new. Probably keep it serious like The Last of Us. It's more serious, I guess. It's still lighthearted and fun, but
would you maybe want to see them go back to doing something not so grounded in reality?
Yeah, possibly. If they keep the storytelling elements, the motion capture, the facial capture, the voice acting. If you like Firefly, Nathan Fillion is Drake. So I think if they keep getting these excellent, like top tier A-list voice actors, Naughty Dog has the storytelling chops to make a fun game, an interesting game. I think if they wanted to get the more hardcore gamers, maybe make their gameplay and mechanics a little bit more complex than shoot, run, solve a puzzle, and climb.
That's fair. All right, last question. No, I'm just kidding. I was gonna say. I'm like fuck, Mary kill, Crash Bandicoot, Nathan Drake, and Ellie, but Ellie's too young.
Well, not in this one.
That's true.
Yeah, she's true. I think she's like 19, 18 maybe. I think she's legal age.
Let's really hope so, or else.
Well, I hope so because there's some adult content.
What?
Not gonna spoil anything.
Well, thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, happy to have you on the team. Like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Also, next episode should be from Soft Games. I had to think about it for a second. Assuming that's how I'm releasing these. If I'm wrong, then this is the third one. But hey, you'll see it when this thing comes out. But anyway, yeah, like and subscribe, and also check out our Legend of Zelda Let's Play. Probably see it in the corner, an ad for it, either left, right. Take a look for it right now, coming out on the screen.